See, now, I know my mom knows I went outside to play with my friends, but I also know my mom's not going to do anything about it. Because my mom's way of thinking was, all right, you disobeyed me once, you disobeyed me twice, I'm just going to wait till your father gets home.
Oh.
Exactly. Do you ever remember playing outside, looking down the street, waiting for that car to come turn the corner? And as soon as you see that car, you're like, oh, damn, here it comes, right? So here goes my father's car, pulls up into the driveway. I'm running up to my dad. I'm like, listen, Dad, before you go inside the house, I just want to let you know that I love you. And because of you, I'm going to get to grow up to be the kind of man that you've always wanted me to be. Now, don't forget that the strongest bond has always been between father and son, okay? Look, God has Jesus and I have you, okay? And I want you to remember that because there are going to be people in this world that's going to try to break that bond with lies and deceit and a bunch of nonsense that's not even true. I love you. And my father's looking at me like, what the hell is wrong with you, right? So he goes inside the house, and sure enough, 5 minutes later, he's back outside. Get in here! And I'm like, damn, I knew it, like I was in trouble. So I looked at my friends, I wished them my final farewell, I left whatever earthly possessions I had left, I think it was a football or something like that. I go inside the house, and my father's yelling at me, right? Like, don't you ever disobey your mother, and my father will spank me. But when he spanks me, he'll say stuff like, I'm doing this because I love you, right? Cool, but I was a smart-ass kid, so I looked at my dad, I'm like, well, then I can't wait to grow up and love you back. Oh, snap. His hand reached up so high, smacked me across my face. You ever get hit so hard no sound comes out? Like you just like frozen, right? Suddenly tears starts falling down my face. My father's looking at me like, you know, I ain't want to look at you right now. Go back outside and I'll call for you when I'm ready for you. Like, fellas, do you ever remember trying to go back outside to play with your friends, trying to pretend you haven't been crying, right? Like, you stand at the door, you're like, all right, man up, we good, right?
Yeah.
You run outside, your friends come rolling up to you like, yo, man, you all right? You're like, yeah, man, I'm cool. Like, you thought it was gone? Like, were you crying? No. So, every time I looked at my dad, like, I always looked at him like he was perfect. Like, here was a guy who will discipline me when I need to be disciplined, will feed me when I need to be fed, will love me whenever I need to be loved. So to me, my dad could do no wrong, right? Until I turned like 16. Him and my mom were going through a divorce, and I remember being at church, and I looked down, and my father was kneeling next to me, and he was crying. And it was the first time I'd ever seen my father break down. Like, I don't know about you, but you get to that age when you start to realize that your parents are no longer just parents, that they've become actual human beings with their own faults and their own problems. And all these years, they're doing all they can to keep it away from you, when in reality, they had their own stuff they had to face too. So I wrote this for my dad, just to let him know I love him and how much I appreciate everything he's tried to teach me. Real quick funny story though, right? My dad's like old school Filipino. Like, he's so old school, he had the same Nokia cell phone for like 5 years, right? You remember the cell phones where you can switch out the different colored faceplates? You remember that? Right? My dad had that joint. And I'm like, Dad, you can't even text message with this, right? And he's like, why do I need to text message you? I can just call you on the phone. Like, that was his mentality. So on his birthday, I bought him an iPhone. And when I got home, I texted him. I'm like, Dad, how do you like your new phone? And I don't hear from him for like 24 hours, right? 24 hours, finally rolls around, I finally get a text message back, and he's like, I like it very much, thank you. And then my phone rings like immediately after, right? So I pick it up, and I'm like, hello? And he's going, oh, I'm just calling to make sure the text message went through. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? To defeat the purpose of why we're text messaging each other right now. So the other day, I called him, and he picks up the phone, he's like, hey. I'm like, hey. He goes, you ever notice how life is a lot like toilet paper? I'm like, what the hell are you talking about, Dad? And he's like, you know, how it always seems to unravel faster the closer you come to the end of the roll. Smoking cigarettes with my father, this is what he passes down as profound insight the day he turned 58 years old. My father has never been clever with metaphors. He attends a prayer group on Saturdays, goes to church on Sundays, and once a month volunteers to serve communion to the elderly at the local retirement home. If the entrance to heaven was measured by the path we take to reach the pearly gates, God will blow breath on my father's feet to lift him to the sky, while I would have a lot of explaining to do. I spend most days dodging confession booths, while my father serves salvation like 6 o'clock medication to folks who think of communion as the frequent flyer miles we rack up to get to heaven. Some of them have cashed their tickets by the time my father returns. But he returns. If not for them, then for the old man in room 14. For him, my father remains persistent, peers into his room and offers communion as if this time would be different, only to be met each month by a face as distant as the relatives who no longer visit. But for the first time last week, the old man said yes, took the leavened bread from my father's fingers, placed it on his lips where it lingered until that evening. He went to sleep and never woke again. Left this world with nothing more than a bedpan that needs cleaning, a three-piece suit to be buried in, and the one question my father started asking since. What is it about death that makes a man finally come to terms with God? I am the wrong guy to be asking. There's a part of me that believes death doesn't give you too many chances to escape the light. Might as well smoke your lungs into midnight. Drink like the liver deserved to be punished. Supersize your value meals. Pimp slap an ex-convict. Masturbate until your brain explodes from a lack of oxygen. There's 6 million ways to die. Choose one that best fits your personality and run with it. Well, I've been running ever since. Going through life as fast as I blow through cigarettes. Tipsy walking on the rim of shot glasses, haphazard and reckless. Eyes wide open, searching for places I'm hoping God will never find me until I see my father. Knees buckled at the pews, hands knuckled at the brow. Eyes clenched tight as if redemption revealed itself on the inside of our eyelids. And we're trying to squeeze it out through our tear ducts so the world can see God's glory inside us. My father will never show us tears. But I know, watching how his temples move in prayer, he sometimes curses God for the callous palms, for the tired fingers, cursing how he can weave them so tight with faith, while God just watches his wife, his children, and his ambitions subdue them. My father, who will feed you with one hand while spanking you into oblivion with the other, who lectures why A- wasn't good enough, bring home a B, he'll ransack your room searching for drugs, who will brag to his friends about us, who will worry about my living life with such reckless abandon. My father, who after every cigarette break always asks if I could stay, even for just a little while, and I find myself always saying no, because I got things to do and places to go, and I watch him disappearing faster from my rear view. This is going like the skid marks I blaze behind me. You are right, Pop. Life is supersonic, so grab my arm and slow me down like you always have. Remind me not to run too fast. Teach me to look both ways before crossing the street, because the world is out there, blazing by high speed, and I get lost way too often. And some days I forget to come home, but you should know, these days I'm only reckless on a microphone. I'm looking both ways before making a decision. I'm holding tight before it all unravels with a simple misstep. So please, light up another cigarette. Let the smoke linger a little bit longer. Let it rise to the heavens, and I will light it like God, blowing breath on my feet. And when I arrive, and they ask me if I've come to terms with my faith enough to come inside, I'll tell them the one thing I know to be true. I'll tell them I came to terms with God the moment I saw God living in you.